now we have to be there for them and give them the best health care. This is where they as the assistant director is they need a monitor. 1950 facility.
Their blood that watered that tree. And we often treated them in a disrespectful way.
Excuse me. You ready to roll?
Yep.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and I'm proud to be joined by our mayor-elect, Eric Adams, as we visited this wonderful VA facility. Today is Veterans Day, and one of the things that our country has stood for is remembering our veterans. The good news, health care has dramatically improved in the VA over the last 10 years. Our veterans risk their lives for us. My father's a 98-year-old veteran. Is served very well by the Northport VA. And our veterans risk their lives for us, and now we have to be there for them and give them the best health care. And Eric and I were in a unit where they now have the best, the most modern monitoring of the heart. There's telemetry, so every moment, every patient is looked at, so there's no gap. The good news here is in the BBB bill that we are trying to pass, there is $5 billion to modernize, update, and expand our veterans' hospitals. One of the places where they need help, and we asked the assistant director here, is they need to modernize. This is a 1950 facility. They're getting good machinery and they're getting good personnel. But until they can modernize, you can't get the top quality veterans health care. And with that $5 billion, the money will go to modernize facilities like this. It will go to create some outpatient clinics. We don't have enough of those in New York. And it will go to train personnel and upgrade their knowledge and status as they try to give our veterans the best health care possible. The day America forgets its veterans is the day the sun sets on us. They risked their lives for us through all the generations, from the days that the farmers on Bunker Hill put down their muskets and put down their plows and picked up muskets. So the money here is really needed. We are fighting to keep it in, even though the budget, the budget overall has been reduced. The $5 billion for VA facilities and upgrading is still in that BBB bill. If you want to ask people, one of the reasons we must pass the Build Back Better bill is to get our money to upgrade facilities like this so our veterans can get as good health care as anything else. One final thing I'd say. They have 1,200 employees here in this very hospital. They are dedicated. The pay isn't quite as good as at the private hospitals, but they stay here longer. Why? Because the personnel, the doctors, the nurses, the clerical staff, the technical staff is dedicated to serving our veterans. It was a beautiful thing, and we talked to a whole bunch of them. One lady was here every day, a nurse, throughout COVID, didn't get COVID, but didn't miss a day's work. That's how dedicated the employees are. So our hats are off to them, too. With that, let me turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to just continue to applaud the leader. What he has done for New York City and New York State during the COVID crisis, during the infrastructure bill, during the relief that he's fighting for NYCHA, and now here today talking about the billions of dollars that he is fighting to bring here for the VA. The VA used to be an embarrassing system of giving health care to those who have allowed us to appreciate the tree of freedom. It was their blood that watered that tree, and we often treated them in a disrespectful way. We did not give them the basic services that they deserved, but there's a new energy. There's a new energy in the VA, and there's a new energy that is sweeping our city. And so I'm happy to be joined here as a former chair of Veterans Affairs in the State Senate. I know what it is to respect our vets and what we must do. And when you look at the 2019 data from the US Census Bureau. There are about 138,000 veterans living in New York City, and many of them are struggling just to get basic access to services. There were nearly 700 homeless veterans in our city before COVID hit. So we can only imagine the increase now post-COVID. And we have to go out and find them on the ground. It's imperative that our city redouble its outreach effort to make sure that we partner with the nonprofits to provide the goods and services that our veterans need. And that's why we put in place and we continue to announce our Honor Our Heroes agenda. And at this time, I also want to acknowledge one of the veterans that's on my staff that I'm really proud of, that he's here with us, Joe Fazell. We told him to take the day off, and he says, no, I want to be here. He has been my videographer, my technician, and I'm just proud to have him on the team. You hire a vet, you get the best. You know, you get the level of commitment and dedication that they served our city. They can also have it as they serve us in private industry. And so our Honor Our Heroes calls for expand access to veteran services with on-the-ground outreach coordination and coordinators. Too often we only have 3 major VA hospitals in the city. But if we get on the ground, have local outreach, we won't need for our veterans to have to go to great distance to get the services that they need. And we want to train and hire veterans. They're the credible messengers. No one understands it better. I partner with Black Vets from Social Justice. They do an amazing job each year, and not only honoring the vets, but throughout the years providing the basic on-the-ground supportive services. We want to establish new neighborhood support networks for military families, strengthening civic bonds and helping identify need for supportive city services, because not only the vets serve, but the family members serve as well. And we want to make sure that we provide them the basic services that they desire, they deserve, and they need. And we want to ensure accessibility renovations like those at my office that are funded at the Brooklyn War Memorial in Cadman Plaza. It's clear that New York City veterans are twice as likely to be living with disabilities than the general public. So by ensuring that we have proper accessibilities for those living with disabilities, we're going to encompass our veterans as well. And conduct a citywide infrastructure and properties assessment to determine where accessibility needs are located so we can remove those barriers to have accessibility to our city. And something that is really different when you think about it, universal, free meditation, breathing exercise, yoga to deal with the trauma. Many of our vets are experiencing PTSD, and we have found that dealing with meditation and yoga and other forms of self-care, you can alleviate much of these conditions that they are facing. And so this is just among a list of things that we believe we can do to honor our vets, not only on Veterans Day, but every day of the week. And so again, Senator, I thank you so much for what you are continuing to do for our vets.
Let me just say this. This money is also flexible with much less bureaucracy. We need outpatient clinics for our veterans. A lot of them, as the mayor mentioned, are disabled. Until now, Congress had to approve these outpatient clinics. Now they can go forward and approve them. We need some in New York City. We have very few. We have one in Staten Island, one in Harlem. That's it. We need to spread them. Second, the new kinds of treatment that the mayor mentioned is available under this. We've made it much more flexible because medicine is expanding rapidly, and we need to make sure that these facilities are as top-notch as the facilities that treat everyone who is a non-vet. Take some questions on topic.
On topic first.
Senator, $5 million sounds like a lot of money, but what's the start of the country? Do you have any idea how much of that will come to New York?
Yeah, yes, many hundreds of millions. We don't know the exact formula, but since we have more veterans and we have more facilities, we do better than just a per capita basis. Okay?
Once, twice, 3 times. Dave?
Senator, do you mind if we ask the mayor-elect?
Yeah, we're gonna do off topic, but the senator has to.
Great.
Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see
Yeah.
you. Can do an off topic for me, sure. Yeah, I haven't seen what he said, so I'm not going to comment on it. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm not commenting on it. Yes. Yes, I have spoken to Pete Buttigieg. I have made this my #1 request in what they now call the RAISE grant, which used to be the Tiger grant, and I'm very hopeful we will get some good news shortly. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Good to see you. Thank you. You're doing a great job. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, Stephen will point out who.
Let's start, Melissa. Oh, sorry, I thought you did. Dave, go ahead.
Eric is good.
I wanted to ask about the meeting yesterday. Everyone, was asking about today with the Black Lives Matter movement. Those folks who you met with at Borough Hall, just two questions. First of all, do you see them as representative of the larger movement of Black Lives Matter? And my second question is, I kind of gleaned from that entire meeting and what happened, your message to them, and maybe it's to all New Yorkers, is don't mess with Eric Adams.
Well, okay, first, that they are representative of the 13 of them, and what I want to do is to speak to New Yorkers. And if you look at what I shared with them, which I was glad that it was Facebook Live, because their interpretation of the meeting was totally different with what happened in the room. It was clearly that they understood where I stand, and I am not going to be a mayor that hides. If there's a protest, I'm going to engage and talk to people. Last week, I walked into the march of those who had the vaccine mandate. I have been meeting with gang members. I'm meeting with corporate executives. And so people need to understand, when you rode the subways during the mid-'80s, with a radio that didn't work, when homicides was 2,000 homicides a year, there's very few things that intimidate me. There's very few things that frighten and scare me. And New Yorkers are not going to live in fear, and we're not going to be intimidated by anyone. You have a mayor that's going to be a general that is going to lead from the front. I'm going to lead my troops into battle, not send them into battle, and I'm ready to fight this battle on behalf of New Yorkers. That's silly. That's silly, and I think New Yorkers should not allow rhetoric like that. This city is not going to be a city of riots. It's not going to be a city of burning. This is going to be a city where we're going to be safe. We're going to have effective policing that's not heavy-handed. We're going to have the backs of our police officers, but we're going to hold them accountable to do their jobs. And so if fringe elements want to hurl rhetoric like that, that's silly to New Yorkers. This city is ready to move forward, and they're ready for the type of leadership I campaign on. There's no surprise on what I said. When I ran to become the mayor of the city of New York, I said I was going to reinstitute an anti-gun unit in plain clothes. Voters voted on that. I stated what I was going to do. What I said on the campaign trail is what you're going to see in City Hall, and I'm not backing away from that. And that's what New Yorkers want. It's ironic that at no time did that small fringe group talk about the gun violence that is destroying our city. They didn't talk about the 21-year-old that was shot by a 17-year-old with a gun. They didn't talk about this countless number of shootings that's participated. And so what I said to them, it's time for you to be held accountable on what's happening in your city. Don't look towards Eric. I was elected to be the mayor, not the Messiah. And we got to do this together.
We're going to go Ayanna, and then we're going to Georgette.
Sure. So, Mayor-elect Adams, can you talk a little bit more about your search for a police commissioner? You've given a few hints, but I'd love to know if there's any more detail. Are you still considering a civilian? Are you still considering people from outside the city? Any names that are on a short list that you know today?
No, I can't. But we have a good problem. When I looked over the preliminary list of people, I am blown away about the talent that we have. We have some impressive resumes. We have conducted a round of interviews, and looking at the resumes, I think New York we're in a good place. There's some good talent, and we're going to announce it. That's going to be one of the first announcements we are going to make, that along with our chancellor.
Are you still open to there being a civilian?
Yes, I'm open. I'm open to a civilian or person who has worn the gun belt. If they come with the right combinations of skills in this unique time of justice and safety, that is what I ran on, and I am open to that.
And so what are some of the skills or
I gotta move on. So, Jeff.
Yes, I'm open. My style is different from so many that you are going to be pleasantly surprised when you swipe your Metro card and you get on the D train and you're going to look down and say, "Is that the mayor?" You're going to be pleasantly surprised when you see me walk into a NYCHA development in Staten Island and sit down and talk to the residents. I am going to be an on-the-ground mayor. And so because someone start off believing that we have differences, when you start to sit down and talk, if you look at the video, the full video, you will see that in the room was different what you saw outside. In the room, they acknowledge, Eric, you have been here. You spent your life work fighting on behalf of people. And so I know that people have to do the showboating and the showcasing. I got that. But I'm the best person to bridge the gap. And I'm looking forward to speaking with them again and other Black Lives Matter groups here. You have one in Brooklyn who I've worked closely with often. And you have others throughout the country that I'm going to continue to sit down with. I enjoyed speaking with people. I enjoyed a good, healthy conversation. I'm looking forward to that as I continue to become the mayor of this city. Listen, this is New York, man. I protest. I yelled at people. I mean, we can't be afraid of who we are. This is New York. This is the excitement of New York, and I live off it. I thrive on it, and I'm enjoying every moment of it.
We got two more time. I'm sorry. We have time for two more.
No, hold on. Let me. When I heard that they were marching across, we communicated, and the indicator was that, Eric, is it possible that we can speak with you? And I said, of course. I'm in Borough. I'll be in Borough Hall. I have a couple of meetings, but I am looking forward after you finish your march that if you want to sit down so I can hear your ideas. Because good ideas come out of these conversations. A great idea came out of that conversation about safety hubs, of creating safe spaces. And you don't get these good ideas from people if you don't talk to people. And I'm open to talk to find out the ideas that are out there.
Tim, and then Melissa, and then Bill.
Yeah, one thing that didn't come up in that meeting but came up after that progressives are really concerned about is the plainclothes unit. For people, progressives who are concerned about it, can you explain how that will be, how you will avoid the abuses that you had with the previous units? And then also on something that you just said and that you also said in the meeting with them, which is that they also need to take responsibility. For people who hear that and say, well, you're going to be the mayor, doesn't the public safety buck ultimately end with you? What's your reaction to that?
Yes, first let's go with, because that's very important what you just pointed out. The plainclothes anti-gun unit did not come up in the meeting. It gave the impression that it did, because if it would have come up in the meeting, I would have stated the same position I've always had. And they knew that, so when you got out front and you started talking about, what we're going to do if the unit is put in place, that was never a conversation in the meeting, and that's why I wanted it to be broadcast. Because nowadays, you better broadcast it, because people tell different stories when they go outside. The plainclothes anti-gun unit is going to zero in on guns and gangs. They're going to wear their body cameras. If you speak with the district attorneys, they would tell you that many cases were thrown out or not handled correctly because plainclothes officers were turning off their body cameras. We want our officers now, they're going to have their body cameras on every interaction. We're going to use precision policing to identify the gang members, the crews. We're going to target them. That is my focus, targeting the gang crews and the guns in our city. We're going to have well-trained officers knowing conflict resolutions. The supervisors are going to closely monitor them, and they're going to review the video footage. Those officers who are abusing their authority, they'll be held accountable, and if they continue, they will be removed from my department. So you're going to see a better style of a gun unit that's going to zero in on gun violence, and we're going to connect the dots across the city. Right now, we're too disjointed. We removed the precinct level plainclothes unit. That was a bad decision. I believe we should ensure the precinct level where the local people understand what's happening in those precincts.
And on the second question, you say that they need to take responsibility too.
Yes. Because, this is the problem that we have in the city. People believe when you elect someone, you now sit back and let me see the elected do the job. No, that's not Eric Adams' regime. No, we are in this together, as I stated. No one is going to say to me in this city, I'm holding you accountable as a mayor, without me saying, I'm holding you accountable as a citizen. What are you doing as a citizen? What are you doing to help people who are homeless? What are you doing to help children who are falling back in school by tutoring them? What are you doing to deal with the gang and gun violence in your city? We're in this together. It's my role to make sure that communities have the resources on the ground, but it is the role of organizations, those 13 people, to show what they're doing. They're from the Bronx. I don't know if you notice what's happening in the Bronx right now. The gun violence in the Bronx is reaching a dangerous level, and I have yet to hear them say one thing about that, and that's why I'm saying to them, I'm holding you accountable as citizens. We are in this together, one city, and together we're going to turn the course of this city. I like that. That's a good question. First, let me deal with the plain clothes. Policing is predictable and unpredictable. That is what public safety is. If the bad guys know that the only thing they have to look out for are those in blue and white cars, we're at a disadvantage. You need the unpredictable aspect of policing and public safety, and that's the unmarked car. That keeps the bad guys off balance. Right now, their mindset is, we don't have to worry anymore. If we don't see a blue and white car, we don't have to worry about the police. We can do whatever we want, and that's what you're seeing in our city. Our city has become an everything goes city. And so when you have that balance, you are able to keep the element of uncertainty. We must put that back into the process so that we can go after some of the blatant gun use. You're reading this stuff. People are discharging guns on the street in broad daylight. And so we have to combat that. And so we don't have to do it by giving up proper police practices. That is not going to happen. No, it's not. No, it's not. It becomes a higher risk based on the people who are assigned in the unit. If you put out the order that you're going to go out and stop people based on their ethnicity, based on their neighborhood, that's the reckless behavior that you witnessed. I'm going to show you how you get the quality officer there that comes with a quality arrest, not being based on just stats and numbers. How do we become a qualitative police department, and you could do it with a quality officer assigned to the plainclothes unit? Here's what's happening. This was the hidden factor in the protests over the summer that many people didn't understand. Just because you are a police officer does not mean you are capable of doing every assignment at a particular time. If I need a brain surgeon, I don't want a podiatrist. I want someone that's special in that area. I'm going to train a group of officers in the police department who are going to be skilled and trained to deal with protests. They will be on the front line. What we had, when a protest happens, a peaceful protest or any protest happens now, we do a deployment of officers. We don't care what their assignments may have been. If you spent 10 years kicking in doors, going after people who have guns, you believe that everyone you come encounter with is one of those people you have been chasing. When you are a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so what Eric Adams is going to do when we have protests, we're already going to have well-trained officers that we could deploy who are going to go through specific training on protests, how to respond to them, how to do conflict resolution, how to interact with people based on their profile and disposition. Those body of officers will be on the front line of these protests, and then you will have those other officers backing them up. A new way of thinking, a new way of approaching policing, and this is how you effectively deal with that form of protest that we witnessed. Now, we're never going to turn our city over to someone burning police vehicles. We're not turning our city over to people who are going to damage property, be disruptive, and be dangerous. That is not happening. But at the same time, my frontline officers at those protests are going to come with a different skill set, and we're going to make sure that they're better prepared to deal with that front line.
Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To clarify, you asked if they had a big film.
When they were filming it, my staff said they filming it, and I said, let them keep filming it. I want people to see
You
it.
want it.